Good evening. I'd like to call our meeting to order. Thank you for all of you for being here today. Kim, would you please call the roll? Oh, wait, I'm sorry, Kim, I didn't even know you weren't here yet. Sorry. We can wait on you to call the roll. We're not in a hurry. Sorry.
Mr. Austin.
Present.
Mr. Webb.
Here.
Vice Mayor Anderson.
Here.
Mayor Pillion.
Here.
Let the record reflect Ms. Quetch is absent from the meeting.
Now we will have Councilmember Webb to lead us in the pledge of allegiance.
Pleasure. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We've revised our agenda just a little bit. I'm going to ask Associate Pastor from Pleasant View United Methodist Church, Barbara Farmer, to lead us in prayer. But I would also like for us to have a moment of silence in honor of Paul Quetch, Council Member Donna Quetch's husband, who passed away early this morning.
Father, as we come to you in silence, in respect and honor of our dear friend Donna in the loss of her husband, Father, we extend our heartfelt and deepest sympathy to her and her family in this time of her sorrow and her need. Father, I pray for these council, Mayor Pillion and these councilmen who will conduct business tonight in her absence. So, Lord, you gather us together in groups like this, and you gather us as family. And when one hurts, we all hurt. And now, Lord, I would ask you to bless this group tonight who lead this beautiful town of Abingdon. Guide them in their decisions. Grant them knowledge and wisdom. And then at the end of the day, give them peace, Father, in knowing that they have done what you have assigned to them to do through through voters who have elected them, and let them have peace in knowing that they've done their job well. So, Lord, I thank you for them and ask you to bless them in ways that we can't even dream about. In the name of Jesus, amen.
Amen.
Now we have the agenda before us for approval. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
So the motion was presented by Mr. Webb. It was seconded by Mr. Austin. Do we have any discussion? If there is no discussion, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Austin.
Aye.
Mr. Webb.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Anderson.
Aye.
And Mayor Pillion.
Aye. Now we have the minutes from July 10th, 2023, and they have been revised. We all have a copy in front of us. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes from our previous meeting?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Oh, you weren't here. I'll second it to get it on the floor, but I was going to ask what the revision was, please.
I left in a motion, Mr. Austin, that should have been in last month's.
Oh,
So
okay.
removed it. Yes,
Okay,
sir.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, I second.
Okay, so the motion was made by Mr. Webb, seconded by Mr. Austin. Is there any further discussion? Not, Kim, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Austin.
Aye.
Mr. Webb.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Anderson.
Because I wasn't at the last meeting.
Thank you. And Mayor Pillion.
Aye. Okay, now we have public comments. We have a sign-up sheet in front of us. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per person. And on the list, we have Dickie Kaiser, sorry. I can't read. Would you like to read the proclamation? Okay. I need my glasses on, I think.
Hello, Madam Mayor, members of the Town Council. Just like to advise everyone of our
that don't know, first annual Kim Andis Memorial Car Show hosted by the Cancer Outreach Foundation. And this is 30 September, thanks to the town on Main Street from 2 to 5. And Tanya just advised me today that like the National MG Car Club is going to be in town on that day. And of course, their mark was founded in Abingdon, England. So they'll be here on Main Street. Probably 30 of them. So should be real good. Anything open to any cars, probably Land Rovers, maybe. And everyone come down and support us. I've got some of these I'll give you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And next we have a proclamation recognizing August 7th as Purple Heart Day. And you can see we have several of our Veterans Advisory Committee members in purple t-shirts to commemorate the day. And then earlier today, we had a ceremony at Veterans Memorial Park where we dedicated a parking space that is designated for our veterans who have the Purple Heart distinction. So go by and check that out. And Mr. Webb is going to read the proclamation.
My pleasure. This is a proclamation for Purple Heart community. Whereas Abingdon has great admiration and the utmost gratitude for the citizens of our community who have selflessly served in the armed forces, have been vital in maintaining the freedom of way of life enjoyed. And whereas members of our community were killed in action while serving in the armed forces and were posthumously, I know why you asked me to read that now. I can't say that word. Posthumously awarded the Purple Heart for their ultimate sacrifice. And whereas members of our community were awarded the Purple Heart for their bodily sacrifices of being wounded by the hand of the enemy while engaged in combat. And whereas the Purple Heart is the oldest American military decoration and created as the badge of military merit made of purple cloth in the shape of a heart, with the word merit sewn upon it on August 7th, 1782, in Newburgh, New York, by General George Washington during the Revolutionary War, as an award for members of the Continental Army, and whereas it was the first award made available to the common soldier to recognize outstanding valor or merit, and whereas following nearly 150 years of 150 years, the Purple Heart was reestablished by the President of the United States per War Department General Order Number 3, dated February 22nd, 1932, and whereas the heritage it represents is sacred to those who know the price paid to wear the Purple Heart, and whereas Purple Heart Day was first observed in 2014 and followed yearly since, it is a chance to honor the bravery of those who have fought for the United States and to ensure that their courage is never forgotten. And now therefore, Mayor Amanda Pillion, Mayor of the town of Abingdon, recognized August 7th annually as Purple Heart Day and urged the community to display the American flag and other public expressions of recognition and appreciation of Purple Heart recipients.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, comment first.
Yes. And we have a proclamation to present as well.
On behalf of the Veterans Board, we'd like to present you guys with these nice little pins that you can wear every year from now on without having to have a stick on your shirt. Thank you guys for all that you do for us.
Thank you for
All the
everything.
support you give us.
Thank you for everything you do for us. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Here's the proclamation.
Thank you so much.
That's pretty cool.
We can get Amanda to stand up.
I didn't have my heel.
Why don't you come over here, Derek? Cam, you wanna get the picture?
No, y'all go ahead.
All right.
Come on, we'll be with you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Kim takes it. Her office is getting full.
You gotta recycle it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. You're so great. Okay. Now we move on to public hearings. We have a public hearing tonight, a proposed special use permit pursuant to section 5-7, flood hazard overlay district of the town zoning ordinance, proposed development in the flood hazard district, currently zoned B-1, limited business district at 128 Park Street, tax map number 013-1-120F1. So I'd like to open the public hearing.
All right, good evening. I am just going to give you a little background on this and then see if there's anyone that would like to speak. We've seen some of these in the past. Whenever there is a project where somebody wants to build in the floodplain, they go through a process by hiring an engineering firm, discussing and determining whether or not what they want to build is going to alter the floodplain, and then asking the planning commission and ultimately the town council for approval of a special use permit. So this is Vintage Properties of Virginia LLC, and they actually had come through, this is at 128 Park Street, they had actually come through when they moved the Dooley house to this location. So I'm sure you all, or those of you who were on town council at the time, saw that. So they moved the Dooley house to this property. It is sitting in the floodplain. And then this project was, they wanted to add an addition and a porch. So unfortunately, they had to go through the process again. So if they had wanted to put those on originally, then they wouldn't have come back through. So they went through and they had their engineer provide an analysis, and we had our engineer review it. And based on the flood study, the town engineer recommended approval of the special use permit solely on the basis of the utilization of the flood hazard district. We had our planning commission meeting, and we did have one dissenting vote, and that was from Scott Wilson. He is our engineer, and he basically says that he will vote against anything that is added to the floodplain. So, so that's, I think you can say if you have any other comments related to that, but I think that was the gist of it. So yes, if there's any other questions, I can try to answer them. If not, it has been thoroughly vetted by the town engineering department, and the planning commission has recommended approval.
Okay. So I'm going to close. Do we have any other comments? Any other discussion? Okay, if not, then we will close the public hearing. And then we will move on to the resolution. And it's the resolution approving this proposed special use permit. And I guess I will ask for a motion to approve the resolution.
I would move to approve the special use permit.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second.
And I'd like to add the condition that town staff suggested, that it be submitted to all applicable building permits to the Community Development Department to ensure compliance for both construction permitting and for any required flood proofing.
Okay, so we're making the motion to approve the resolution with that addition. Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, so the motion was by Mr. Austin. It was seconded by Mr. Anderson. Is there any discussion? If there's no discussion, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Austin?
Aye.
Mr. Webb?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Anderson?
Aye.
And Mayor Pillion?
Aye. Okay, thank you very much. Now we have a first reading of ordinances on the table. We have a consideration of proposed amendment to the Veterans Advisory Board ordinance by adding an additional 3 members.
Yes, Madam Mayor. As you know, I sit on the Veterans Advisory Board, and they actually just left. But the Veterans Advisory Board, there's been a desire from the board itself to add 3 members so they can get a broader cross-section of the community and hopefully get a little more activity out in the community and whatnot. And I think they've had some other things they've been doing that's added to their activity, but they wanted to expand the size of the board to help perpetuate what they're doing. So I think that would be that's what they had requested, and I think that would be a good thing for them. I think, and you sit on the board too, so you see.
I agree. They're a very active board. They have lots and lots of projects, big ideas all the time, and I do think that carrying out those ideas would be a little easier with some extra man and woman power. How would that, I was gonna ask, I guess then, that would change what we needed to have a quorum if we had to vote on things and all of that, but that would all change in proportion.
Yeah, I think that would add, one or two people to the quorum size. But yeah, I think, based on what I've seen thus far, they've got a pretty good ability to get people to meetings.
It's well attended.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it can do nothing but add to the quality of the board as we currently have it, so.
I agree. I do think it would be helpful. Shall the proposal be rejected? If there are no comments, the ordinance will move to a second reading, or we can go ahead and approve it tonight on a first reading, which I'm happy to do so if we want to go ahead and do that, so we don't revisit it at our next meeting. How do you feel?
Just need a motion for somebody to waive the second reading if that's what you want to do.
Okay, so we need a motion to waive the second reading?
I'll put it to waive the second. I'll put it in motion to waive the second reading
Okay.
And adopt the ordinance.
and then adopt the ordinance that we have
Okay.
in front of us now.
So we have a motion by Mr. Anderson to waive the second reading and to adopt the ordinance to add 3 members to the Veterans Advisory Board. Do we have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion?
How many members are there currently?
Are there
7?
So,
8?
8.
Sorry.
Thank you.
So I'll take it to 11. And then I guess you and I are members, but we don't vote.
yeah, like ex officio or whatever, yeah, so.
Right. Okay. So it was seconded by Mr. Webb. Is there any discussion? If there's no discussion, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Austin?
Aye.
Mr. Webb?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Anderson?
Aye.
And Mayor Pillion?
Aye. Now we have a consideration of a proposed amendment to the Town of Abingdon Code of Ordinances, Chapter 58, Solid Waste, and Mayana Rice, the Assistant Town Manager, is going to speak to us about this as well.
Good evening again. Yeah, so in your packet, you had an underline and strike through version. We also wanted you to see that there is the clean version, so that has actually been placed on your desk there, and that would be considered Exhibit A that goes along with the ordinance. So we've been working on the ordinance for a little while now. The first reason that we got started with this was really because we had a local cafe that wanted more garbage cans, and they said, can we get more trash cans out there? And when we started looking at the ordinance, the number, where you kind of switch from being, light commercial to heavy commercial wasn't really defined. That led us on a path of looking at a lot of different things in the ordinance. The amendments tonight, if anyone is listening and curious, has nothing to do with the actual solid waste collection fee from the standpoint of how that's established. So tonight is not about an increase or decrease or fee. We're not talking about that actual number. So I'll just go through briefly these items. If you want to stop me if there's a question, if there is more of a legal question, your legal counsel can advise you there. The first item is waste containers. And I know this might sound a little bit strange, but it's hard to keep track of all of the garbage cans, specifically when you get into the more apartment building areas. And we could go on a long roundabout way of trying to track them, or having the numbers and assigning them to people, but we're thinking that it would be easier if people just purchased their garbage, their waste containers, and didn't have this refund available, since most people are never going to look for the refund anyways. And so the first edit is just that when you open an account, you are purchasing your waste container. They run $60, I think, somewhere in that that range. So right now, we take basically a deposit, and at some point, you can ask for your deposit back. And so this way, they own them, we're not monitoring them. If there's a dispute between neighbors, or if one is lost or damaged, they simply purchase another.
So do they take that with them, like if?
They could.
If they were,
They could.
essentially, if they was to leave,
Yep.
they could take the trash can with them?
They could take it to another account. If they wanted to leave the trash can there, if they were the owner, they could leave the trash can there if they rented it. And each of their tenants, as they come and go, would have that trash can available.
Yes, ma'am.
This is gonna be a weird question, but, okay, I'll give you a great example. I've got a rental property.
Okay.
It's got a trash can, but the trash can's torn up. The lid is damaged.
Sure.
So would everybody who purchased one, would it be brand new, so that everybody gets the same usage out of it and life expectancy? Or would you guys replace those if something?
So there's two ways.
Good question.
Yeah, there's if the can is damaged by the town of Abingdon, we would replace those. So if, for example, when it gets tossed into the back of the truck, the lid pops off or something of that nature. We also have talked about repairing those. So if you had one that needs a new lid, you can request that we repair it. If instead it is completely damaged, say a car runs into it out in the garage or on the property, then you could purchase a new one.
Fair enough.
So here's another question,
Sure.
and this is getting complicated. So if you own a rental property,
Mm-hmm.
so for example, my rental properties, my tenants pay their own utilities. So
Correct.
then what happens each time you have a new renter? Either if they're paying their own utilities, then they have to purchase the trash can.
We're about to get to that next.
Okay,
Okay.
awesome.
I'll
You've
get
already
you there.
thought about these things.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions about the container part? Okay. So the next item,
Excuse me, I do, based upon that.
Yeah.
I'm curious if a trash can, I believe someone was talking about one being damaged.
Mhm.
If it is damaged to a certain extent, do you require the person to purchase a new?
yes, so if it was damaged, let's just say it was fully damaged and the responsibility was on the owner, we would require a person to purchase a new one.
Yes, so if I can just add a bit to that, with the broken lids, then rain gets in them, and it makes it heavier for us to tip them, but it also costs us more when we go to tip it. So it makes sense for us to provide lid replacements and things along those lines, because no one wants drippy, smelly garbage running down the street, which is what will happen if you get a bunch of water in the waste container. But I believe we can get wheel kits and lids, and it's just the service we provide. Now, these cans, they're heavy duty. You can't buy them for what we can buy them for, but they'll last 15, 20 years. And I know nowhere you can spend $60 on something that big and have it last 15, 20 years, especially with that kind of use. So we get pretty good value out of them.
Or the repairs, if someone was to say my can needs to be repaired, is that on the resident or is that on the town, the repairs?
It depends, so we would take those on a case-by-case basis.
Okay.
We don't have so many of those that it's been a problem at this point, so when we discussed it, we said that, again, we would have the lid and wheel kits that we could actually do some repairs on those. Okay. So the next item is commercial service requirements. And so there were established thresholds previously, but they were just very, they just weren't very clear. So we now have established when a business needs a commercial dumpster. So we have established definitions, and when we say business, that means commercial businesses, multifamily, industrial, and mobile home parks. So in general, the basic statement that we have always had is that the town of Abingdon does not go onto private streets. So if you've got 25 condos or apartments or or a mobile home park, most of those are actually serviced with dumpsters. If it is a public street and not a private street, then we can service the waste containers. So for example, we had a developer come in this week and was trying to propose a private street, and in our discussion, we said to the future, if you make this a public street, you actually get all of these additional benefits. You don't have to monitor your tenants' trash, et cetera. So what we did is that, and again, any existing business that already is functioning in a certain way, let's say they have 6 garbage cans, we're not going out and forcing anyone to get a dumpster. You're grandfathered in
Gotcha.
to the action that you have. But it allows us, when a business moves out of a space, if they have been functioning with 5 or 6 garbage cans, it allows us to say to the next tenant, hey, you're actually a restaurant, we need you to get a dumpster. And so you'll see that in the ordinance where we created the table. The table says residential, commercial. We also included grease traps, hazardous waste, and then the number of garbage cans. So it's not every use, but we have single family, duplex, quads, cafe, restaurant, and then we separated retail businesses that are smaller than 10,000 square feet, and then retail businesses that are larger than 10,000 square feet. So again, the idea is single-family homes, like light commercial businesses, et cetera, you can have the garbage cans, but when you reach that capacity where you really need a dumpster, that we have the capability to require that. Any questions on that before we move on to the next one? So this is where your question came into play, the biannual billing. So currently, just like you said, a person could live there a month. Hopefully they wouldn't, hopefully they rent a little longer, but they could live there 6 months, they could live there 10 years and be a tenant. And so what we are proposing, and this is probably the largest change in the proposal here, is that we would actually not have our current monthly bill for trash, but instead place that monthly bill on your biannual residential tax bill. So you, as the landlord owning your property, would now get a trash bill twice a year, and then that would be up to you to pass it on to your tenant. If you were a single-family resident, et cetera. So right now, the trash is linked to the sewer bill. And so we basically would be changing that mechanism and putting it on your residential tax bill. So the owners would receive the garbage, the trash bill, and it would no longer be a monthly bill.
Not on the tax bill, with the tax bill, it's not a tax.
With,
Right.
it is not a tax.
So,
Thank you.
does that, would those people, like, for instance, I've got a rental house with tenants in it right now.
Yes.
Is that grandfathered in, or, because I've got a lease that says they pay X number of dollars per month, but if I'm gonna be
Mhm.
passing something else on to them midstream, that's kind of unfair, you know?
So at the moment, no. Our proposal would be that we would switch it at the with the next tax bill would be the proposal.
Yeah, I mean, and if that causes a problem for the landlords, we could always push that particular clause out 6 months or 9 months, whatever it would make, and then,
I mean, I don't think it's a huge deal, I'm just
Yeah, I was
thinking
along
critically
the same
about,
lines.
you know, because you've got quite a few landlords in town.
Well, there are
so-
some landlords who own multiple
Multiple properties,
properties,
right.
and so it would be a big cost to them if suddenly they got this bill, say if you owned 6 rental houses, and then you had to pay all of that in addition to your monthly taxes, if you, or your biannual taxes, if you had not thought about that, that might be a financial surprise.
Yes, and right now, we have it commencing January 1st of 2024, but as our town manager has just indicated, we could do more of the public notice and commence it later, so that you would have at least one entire, I guess, half of a year to collect that fee from your tenant
Mhm.
prior to us initiating it. That's what would happen right now if you basically found out, like, next month you're gonna be needing to pay it in January. You'd have time to collect it, but if we needed to wait until the next cycle, we could do that as well.
well, I'm sorry.
No, that's true for any residential user?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, but the idea on our end is to make it more efficient for staff. I mean, right now, if you think about how many bills we send out and what it takes to track all that relative, it's just it's a lot of work. And so we're trying to find the ways to be more efficient with our staff and easier on everybody all around.
So I know that right now it's attached to the sewer bill. It's a sewer and solid waste bill. So what is the penalty for non-payment? So if someone does not
Correct.
pay this for 6 months at a
Sure.
time, then what happens?
Sure, so, in section G, so pursuant to section 15.2-105 Code of Virginia, penalty and interest for failure to pay accounts when due. Any person failing to pay pursuant to an ordinance, an account due a locality on or before its due date other than taxes, which are provided in Title 58, may, at the option of the locality, incur a penalty thereon of an amount not exceeding 10%. So essentially, if they did not pay that fee, we could ultimately, and I'm gonna turn to Cam to back me up here or tell me I'm wrong, we could ultimately put a lien against the property. So the fee goes, you could do that with almost any fee. For example, let's just talk about code compliance. If somebody doesn't mow their lawn and we've sent out the notice to them, and then they don't pay for the town to actually mow the lawn, we then go place that against the property. So it's a fairly common occurrence to place something against a property if a fee is not paid. It would make a little more sense though, because at this point, it's getting a little bit into the weeds, but at this point, we do have the sewer bill and your trash bill connected. So our current action, based on non-payment, is to turn off the water.
Do you think, following down that trail just a little farther, I know that we have a lot of sewer bills that are disconnected on a monthly basis and then people pay to get them reconnected. Do you think this might cut down on that?
I do think it could, yes.
Because I know that that is a lot of time that town staff and the service authority staff spend on that issue.
They do.
Okay. So it would also make that process
Yes.
more efficient.
So your tenants in general would, if you were a tenant or a homeowner, would be getting a lower monthly bill. It would no longer include the waste, the trash on it. It would just be for your wastewater.
Yeah, and to your point, a lot of our shut-offs are at rental locations. And so, if you were to remove that, that would definitely help out.
Right. So how much, and I should know the answer to this question, but I want to make sure that it's correct. How much is it how much do we charge monthly for solid waste? So and then to add on to that question, how much would it cost each 6 months?
So we would take each 6 months, we would take the amount for 6 months and apply it to your property.
Right.
So instead of getting a monthly bill, that same amount would come
Right.
on every 6 months. And this is why Mike's right is here to tell me what the fee is for solid waste. We just changed it, so now I'm
30, isn't it?
30.
I thought it was 30, but I didn't want to say that if I was incorrect.
Yeah,
So it would be $180
You are
every
correct.
6 months.
yes. Now, it can, of course, it can stay the way it is, but, just as your town manager indicated, it has a lot to do with the sort of a constant battle that we've had with trash cans and people paying or not paying their bills or moving out and then not paying before they've even, their month. It's just, it's kind of a constant treadmill of us trying to keep up with it. So, and that is on the tenant side primarily, not so much on the owner occupied places. So this would allow just a more uniform way of acquiring that payment. But yes, as landlords, which you all are, it does put more of that, of you needing to do it as a pass-through fee to your tenants.
So maybe I'm being kind of dense about this, but let's surmise a scenario where somebody purchases a trash can, pays their bill for a couple of years, and then decides they don't want to use the trash can anymore. Can they call the town and disconnect the service
No.
for the trash? Okay. Because I kept thinking, if they've still got the trash can, they could be dishonest and just stick it at the road, right?
Well-
Like, we're not gonna be able to measure.
Yeah, to your point, for years, that we've had on the books and ordinances, is people are supposed to be part of the trash service.
So it's-
And we've allowed people to opt out, and no,
That's what I was-
because we're fairly confident they're putting trash out anyway. It's a
Of course
matter of,
they are, yeah.
it might not be.
One thing I was gonna say too, like,
Yeah.
you know, I work at a restaurant, I frequent the farmer's market a lot too.
Yeah.
And it seems to me like everyone who doesn't pay for trash pickup finds somewhere to dump their trash that we still pay for
Correct.
anyway.
Right.
Correct.
I'm not trying to be nasty
No.
when I say that,
No.
but if you'd walk around, I live near the Abingdon Daycare Center. They're closed all summer, but trash cans are full every week. Somebody, I just don't know what to say
Yeah.
about that.
No, it's true, it's true.
Or that's just if somebody doesn't have a town pickup and
Correct.
say they want to get rid of a mattress, they know they don't have town pickup, they just take it to the end of the road because they know that the town's going to pick it up at the end of the road because someone's going to call and complain about it.
We now have
So-
cameras at that location.
Yeah.
So, yes,
I'm just
so,
making sure people understand that that's,
yes,
you know.
so that is a very, very key piece to this, and I know as the bill went up, we not only, when we increased the fee, we did have some, additional comments from the public, and, that was one of the comments
I
was.
received several on that
Do
too.
you, can you opt out? And you cannot opt out. And what we have honestly not done in the past is really spend a lot of time keeping other waste haulers out of our community. So if you drive up and down our streets, you will see that other people have opted out to use other services. So we're also losing out on that revenue.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and you pick up brush
I'll
at
get
any
to that,
residence
yeah.
on the street,
That's my
correct?
that's my
Yes.
next topic here too, so.
I just
we
keep
do
getting
that.
ahead of you, I'm so sorry.
No, you're fine, that's great.
Right. So it would be
Perfect.
$180 every 6 months?
Correct.
Yes, okay.
So, I mean, again, if we need more time to roll it out, to, allow the landlords time to collect the fee essentially ahead of the first 6 months, I'm sure we could discuss that.
Well, reason I say that is I've got two friends. One owns 20 houses.
Correct.
In our community, and then another has 100 units.
Right. And it's a
And I
difficult
just keep
mechanism
thinking-
to add that $30
Yeah.
onto the lease if it's not time to renew the lease.
Right.
Well, if it's a complex, then they're gonna have to have a dumpster, and so that.
Well, no, these are all like
Separate.
separate
Okay.
type, So I'm just
Sure.
thinking,
Yes,
I
large
don't want
scale.
anybody to get super blindsided by something
Correct.
that's gonna cost them thousands of dollars,
Yes.
and then they'll come to us and
Yeah.
be
Right.
upset.
Yes.
Ready to fight, so.
Yes, and we definitely, if after tonight, and this may not be one that you want to just approve tonight, you might want to have a
Think about it.
second one on this, but, if you do choose to do that, yes, we could wait and allow people, notify everyone essentially, and indicate that would now be, when that would be happening and how they would need to amend that and start collecting that.
I think that would be a good approach, just let people know that's coming, but.
Yeah,
Because, I mean, I have 3 rental properties, and that's essentially $6,000 a year, approximately.
You think
A little
about
more
money
than.
like that, you
7,200.
think about the town's gonna get.
Let's us not lose sight also of the people in our community that are on fixed income. Now, I know whether it's $180 for 6 months or $30 a month, it's the same amount.
Right.
But that's difficult for some people to come up with.
I agree.
And I have a lot of reservation about doing that for people.
I will say, I mirror what Wayne's saying. I worry just a little bit that the perception of having that lump sum, even though it really doesn't make a difference to most people, some people may see that and be like, whoa, I can't write a check for that. Just something
Absolutely.
to,
And if you don't write a check for it, then you're gonna get another 10% added to it.
right. That's my only hesitation on that kind of every 6 months deal.
And I appreciate the efficiency that
No, I do too.
the town manager talked about, and I recognize that. I also recognize, as I said a moment ago, it's the same amount of money regardless of what interval you pay it. But again, I just think it could be a burden to a lot of people in town.
I think that's a very valid point.
Okay, and let me just talk about the last one, and then we can, I guess, talk about additional edits. So the last one is the brush and bulky trash fee. So right now, just as Amanda Pillion indicated to us, the people do put out their brush and their bulky trash. Some of them drag it from other places too, key locations. And we have never required, or requested that we actually have a fee associated with that. So if you don't get garbage, you could still put out your bulky trash. If you don't, use our garbage service, you could still put out your brush. And so that has never been basically a separate item. That was a fee that was provided. So an example would be a mobile home park that has a dumpster, but those last 3 days when everyone's moving in and out, people are actually piling all their additional pieces of bulky trash on the side of the road. We pick that up regardless of whether or not you're using the town service for garbage or a dumpster service. The same goes for brush on properties where you currently might have a dumpster, but you put out all the brush from your, I'm just using you as a restaurant, but like if you're a restaurateur and you're cutting bushes in the back and shrubbery at the front, you may place that out in the front, and we will take that regardless of whether or not you are paying a fee. So one of the things that we're proposing with this amendment was actually having that solid waste brush and solid waste fee for brush and bulky trash applied to commercial businesses, multifamily complexes, mobile home parks, where we are currently not having a payment of fees for trash, and therefore we are basically doing this service for free.
Do we have commercial dumpsters within the town, or is that all outsourced?
It is all outsourced, so
Okay.
we don't monitor or run any commercial dumpsters.
And I have been in situations whereas I've worked at a restaurant and we've had brush and we've called the town and tell them we came and got the brush. The town's not obligated to do that, but the town manager okayed it and they come and got the brush, which it was gone in less than 24 hours, which is big ups to the town manager part on that, but we miss out on that a lot. I mean,
But it's, and the point on this stuff here, and it segues into a couple of points that I've gotten, but beautification. So I've gotten more compliments from people about how beautiful things are and how well maintained it is. And much to, I'm sure Mike Stretch doesn't like the messages sometimes, but, what I don't want to see is when I drive around a lot. When I drive around and I see stuff on the side of the road, no one wants to see stuff on the side of the road. And sometimes it's people that aren't customers, or sometimes it's people that just drag it and dump it. But we don't want that. We want it gone. And so part of this whole thing is to make sure that we can get rid of this stuff. And there are places that that create quite a bit of it. So we want to get rid of it and keep Abingdon as beautiful as we possibly can. And so we've got the grapple, we've got the personnel. It's just a matter of getting it picked up. And we're working on a couple things to try and streamline some of our pickups, but right now it's we're doing the best we can with what we have. So I say that because brush, we had met with a fellow last year. I did that was going to have a mulching thing where they're going to take all the trees and brush and then mulch it and then take it to St. Paul, but that's not fully operational yet. So when we get there, it might be able to save us some money, but we're still working on that.
So I am hearing that the timing of the billing, to have it monthly versus going along with the real estate billing, you would prefer to keep it monthly and by tenant and or homeowner and not actually place it on a biannual basis.
I think for me, I'm not opposed to changing it for efficiencies, but I think for me, it's really more about level of communication with the constituents. And I mean that for tenants as well as landlords, as well as just residential people, commercial businesses, et cetera, because, I've had a few things come up in my service to the town, that people have gotten quite upset about getting a bill for. Had a guy that has some mobile homes, and somebody moved out angrily and threw a bunch of stuff at the road, and anyways, it sat there for 72 or, hours or so, and he got a $200 bill. So anyways, but those are the things that I think without properly communicating with these people ahead of time, that people get very irate and call us over. But I think if it's done in a way that, people have enough notice and they understand that the rules are changing, then maybe it would work.
And I might have the same concerns that Mr. Austin has also. I do think that for some people, thinking about things as $30 a month is a lot different than a bill of $180 all at one time. And so that's something that I think we need to put some thought into before we change it. And I do appreciate the efficiency, and I appreciate that you all work very hard, and all of those things. So I think that is the one thing in the ordinance that I think we need to give some more time to.
And the key thing there, unfortunately Tammy was not able to be here tonight, but the key thing there is that she had indicated that she would work with the mortgage companies and the brokers, because it would be, many people have their homes in escrow, so it would become part of, your escrow that you're paying at that same time. So it wouldn't, it would become part of the way that you pay. Not everybody does this, but, a lot of people have their homes in some type of an escrow situation, so they aren't paying their real estate tax bill separately.
Since it's not technically a tax?
I think it's gonna be moved, because you're not gonna do it, but.
I'm just curious.
I think if it was by agreement, all that's it's just for convenience.
Correct.
None of it's required.
Okay.
They just go along with the bank when you're paying insurance and all that sort of stuff, and just collecting it, so you don't have one big bill in November and May. So, yeah, I think it would be, if properly set out, could be legal.
But they couldn't require it
Right,
because you're,
exactly, sure.
yeah, the
Yeah,
note
that's
that you
what I-
signed with the bank, so we're not going to escrow trash.
Absolutely. And, but as you point out, there are lots of people who don't have mortgages. Or
Correct.
even if they have
Correct.
mortgages, not all banks require.
Correct.
But,
Yes.
Do other localities, I'm assuming
Yes.
that we often do things because you look at the way other localities do things and what works for them, so.
Yes, we did find this in other localities in
Okay.
Virginia. That is why we chose to put it in. However, as Cam indicated, it's not, if you're not interested, there's not really a reason, there's not a real reason to push it forward unless, this was, again, just for the idea of efficiencies and to see what interest you had, but.
So I guess our choices are either to reject the proposal, to move the ordinance to a second reading, therefore giving us some more time to discuss and study the matter, or waive the second reading and approve it on the first reading.
So if you are not interested in this idea of moving it to the real estate bill, is that something that they should,
Probably ought to just
edit
table it for a
now,
later
or?
time.
Well, I would just go, say the magic language and go past, and you can take it up the next meeting and see. I expect that you'll get more public comments at the next meeting.
Right. Okay, so
If I were to
then
guess.
what Cam is saying is that he is suggesting that we move the ordinance to a second reading so that we can study these issues and discuss them amongst ourselves and with our constituents. Do we have a motion to do that? Is that what,
I think
we
you
don't need a
just have to say-
motion?
If it's the first reading, all you need to say is, should the matter be rejected, and it'll move to a second reading.
Okay, so, should the matter be rejected?
I'm fine with passing it on to a second reading, but I'll tell you, I would not be in favor of a proposal of attaching it to real estate taxes.
So we're moving it to a second reading, and we will study the issue, and we will discuss that and all the other issues at our next meeting.
Yes, and if there's anything else, just let me know. It sounded like the rest didn't seem like there was too much with the rest of it, just some clarifications.
And we appreciate your hard work and the thought and the effort that has gone into revising this.
Yeah, we definitely have worked cohesively on this with a lot of different departments, so everyone's had, it's interesting when you think about garbage, it sounds like one thing, but it crosses so many different departments, from finance to treasurer to public works to community development. So it's been quite interesting, so we'll bring it back.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you. Okay. So we have no second reading of ordinances. We have no consideration of bids, no new business or old business on the agenda. We do have, under miscellaneous business and communications from the town manager, we have a quarterly report from the Abingdon Fire Department, and we have Chief Tim Estes here.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council and staff. Thanks for this opportunity to be here today. Talk to you about, it's not a quarterly report. This is going to be like an 18-month report. This will be the first time since I've been here, since I became the fire chief. As I go through this, if there's any questions that you have, please stop me. There's a place at the end for questions, but I would rather, if you have a question, let's stop and talk about it, and then we'll move forward. So we're going to talk about an overview of the fire department. We're going to highlight the organization, some agency statistics, training, our recent ISO rating, talk to you about our equipment, and then pretty important at the bottom is community risk reduction. So what we're doing to reduce those things that are going on in our community. The fire department, our mission statement, as you can see on the screen, is to meet and exceed our community's needs and expectations by providing for the safety and health of the citizens and visitors of the town of Abingdon and surrounding county communities through high-quality professional emergency service, fire prevention, and community support services. So what does that mean? That means we get out of bed at 2 o'clock in the morning when a fire alarm is going off to respond to go take care of that fire alarm. We leave the station at 8:30 in the morning to respond to a car crash. So all those things that we do, and we do a lot of things, and you'll see that here in just a minute, this is what we do, and we strive to do this. And we've been around for a long time. We are one of the oldest fire departments in the country. We've been here since 1808. The town was only 30 years old when they decided they needed a fire department. In the 1870s, we had 3 fire stations in town. One on Hutton Street, one on Bradley Street, and one right next to the Episcopal Church. This is what we look like at the fire department. This is our organizational chart. We have a fire chief and assistant chief. We used to have 3 of each rank. So we had 3 deputy chiefs, 3 captains, and 3 lieutenants, and we had a lot of workload divided out amongst all those folks. When I was promoted to the assistant chief, we went away from 3 deputies and went to 2, just trying to be more efficient, as you just talked about. So you can see the number of people, the numbers in parentheses. I don't know how well can you see. I've never looked at that screen, so I didn't know how well you could see the screen, so at least I made it the right font size. The numbers in parentheses are how many people we have in each one of those positions. So what do? We do a lot. Everything on the left-hand side of the screen is what you see us do every day. Responding to fires, wrecks, false alarms, severe weather. Thankfully, we didn't have any severe weather today that we could have. It went north and south of us. We respond to calls for pets, cats in trees, dogs in drains, ducks in drains, and birds in trees. We had to go try to get a cockatoo out of a tree. Somebody bought it, it got out of their house, but we couldn't reach it. I said, just give it some time and it'll come down. We respond to several calls a year to the Virginia Creeper Trail. People get on the Creeper Trail at Green Cove and they coast down to Damascus and they keep pedaling to Abingdon when they're supposed to stop in Damascus. And we get calls about 20 times a year for people being lost on the Creeper Trail. It's pretty straight. It's kind of hard not to get lost. Yesterday we responded to a bicycle crash yesterday out at the farm. They're at the crossroads, and we went out there to help a gentleman, and they were from Bluff City. And they said they come here about 15 to 20 times a year to park in Abingdon at the train to get on our creeper trail and ride out. So that's just another service that we provide. We do inspections and investigations. Back in 2016, the town council adopted the Virginia statewide fire prevention code. Hired John McCormick to be one of the first full-time fire chiefs, and one of his job functions was to do inspections. As he's doing inspections, excuse me, there's lots of things that the fire chief has to do. So in trying to be the fire chief and trying to do inspections, you can't get everything done with only one person. So COVID hit, that kind of went by the wayside, and you'll see here in another slide the training we've done. So we're working on that to make that a better system, and you'll see why I call it a system in just a couple of minutes. We have people that are certified to do fire investigations. The Code of Virginia says the fire chief shall determine the origin and cause of every fire. So now we have enough people to make sure we're able to do that if I'm not there. So I have my designees are able to do that. And then the last thing, which is really important, is community risk reduction. We have a whole staff of part-time employees and some full-time employees that their job is to make sure that we look at the community, we go out and talk to people in the community, and we make sure we're doing our best to make sure the community is safe. Now, everything on the right hand of the screen that you see is stuff that you don't see that we do. Every year, thanks to the council and town staff, we're able to give each one of our members a OSHA compliant physical, which is required. We have a deputy chief and a lieutenant that manage that. We also have to manage our OSHA compliance. We have to have the safety data sheets that are posted and all those things. Our diagram of the room, so if you're in a room, you know how to get out. All those things we have to have. But you can see there's lots of things. We have a mentor program. If you're brand new to the fire department, we assign you to a seasoned veteran so they can help train you and mold you into a good firefighter. We have a deputy chief that's over our training division. And our training division is made up of about 14 or 15 instructors. We have more instructors than most any other fire department in our locality, in our community. We have folks that are assigned to do our social media and keep up our website. Recruitment, retention, and public education. You see us at Plum Alley Day. When we go to Plum Alley Day, we have a tent set up and we're talking to people and giving away hats and coloring books, but we're also giving out applications and we're also talking about home safety. The assistant chief oversees our color and honor guard. We have a captain that oversees our uniforms and issuing uniforms. You've got to have a quartermaster. You have to keep up with everything that we have. Captain Osborne, who's sitting in the audience, Captain Ray Osborne, sitting right there in the middle, he oversees our apparatus maintenance. So when you see a big white truck go up and down the road and it runs well, that's because of his efforts. He makes sure that they're run well and working with the town shop. The town shop does a great job for us. And we really appreciate the hard work that they do. We have a lieutenant that does equipment maintenance. Today we changed the blade and the chain on a chainsaw. So the lieutenant comes in, he makes sure that's done. I don't have to do it, they do it. So they're happy to do that. We also have people that look at water supply. I work with town staff on grants, on special events. We have one lieutenant that does all of our scheduling. We have an app on our phone called the Crew app, and that's how we get people to work. Today there were 4 working from 8 to 4 and 4 working from 4 to midnight. That doesn't happen every day with staff. After midnight, there's nobody working. We come out like volunteers like we always have. On weekends, we typically don't have anybody working, but last Saturday we had 2 working, and this Saturday we'll have 2 more working, which is good. I don't have to always leave my house and come out and answer the call if I know someone's there. And then the last thing that we're doing now is our junior firefighter program. Bob Howard is sitting in the back, and Ray Osborne. Both of those guys started their career in the fire service over 50 years ago. I think between the 2 of them, they've got like 102 years. So that's a long time. And what they did, they both started as junior firefighters. We have found that we have great success by getting 16 and 17-year-olds come into the fire service, and we're able to mold them into good citizens. And by making them good citizens, it makes great firefighters. We just got our first junior back. We're waiting on HR, and we'll be putting him on the street. He just came from Dover, Delaware, 16 years old. And he's already trained. He's got firefighter 1 and firefighter 2 training, which really is good for us. so he's gonna fit right in. Super young man, goes to Patrick Henry, but that's okay. But his job, career path is a firefighter. That's what he wants to retire. He's 16 years old, and he said, that's what I want to do when I retire. So I think that's pretty cool. So the next thing we'll talk about is how many calls do we run? How busy are we? So this is a January to June, just the first 6 months of each year comparison, and it's from 2020, 2021, 22, and 23. You can see at the bottom, we've gone from 276 calls in the first 6 months of 2020 to 334 calls first 6 months of this year. We are very busy. Our fires are up, our motor vehicle crashes are up, our good intent calls are up, and I'll tell you what good intent calls here are in just a minute. In the special incidents, we've had a lot of special incidents. There's a lot of different things that fall into those categories. But we are very, very busy.
Are you finding that more of the calls are coming from the town of Abingdon or Washington County in a whole? Can you tell me the split on that?
I can tell you that if you let me get,
Yes.
I'm kind of like my aunt, that's coming up.
All right. All
So
right.
I've got that coming.
We're very anticipatory tonight.
So, just the first 6 months of the year, just the fire departments, and this is data that I got from Washington County Emergency Management, they manage our dispatch center. There's been 1,061 total fire calls that our 9 fire departments have run in the county. We've responded to 32.1% of the total call volume. It takes the next 2 fire departments combined to get close at 26.7% of total call volume. So we are very, very busy. We're in the center of the county. We respond to every agency, every other fire agency in Washington County, including Glade Spring, and we're separated from them because of Meadowview Fire Department, but we've been to Glade in the last month twice to go help them on their fires. And I'm not complaining because we're busy. Just I want you to know,
Yes, sir.
I'm not complaining. Here's what calls look like in 2013 up to what I have projected for 2023. The numbers in 2013, so that would be the number on the left-hand side of your screen, that gray line, we ran 463 calls back in 2013. Our project will be at 668 at the end of this year. Our fires have gone from 61 calls up to 90. And the bottom line, the orange line, 2013, 14, 15, and 16. 16 is probably really accurate data, but 13, 14, and 15, the way we captured our data in our reporting system did not capture all the motor vehicle crashes. So that orange it looks like we only had 7 wrecks in 2013, but that's not correct. But that's another one of our high volume calls, and we're projected to run 240 car crashes this year. So very busy. So our percentage of calls, 2 more slides, and I'll get you, Mr. Anderson, I'll get you on that.
Yes, sir.
Here's a breakdown of all those calls that we have run over the past 10 years. We've responded to nearly 6,000 calls in 10 years. So some of the questions that you might have is, what is a service call? It's easy to figure out what a fire is and what a rescue. A rescue is where we log our motor vehicle crashes. But like, what is a service call? A person in distress, someone's basement is flooded, water problem, someone smells smoke or smells a strange odor. We responded to 2 calls about the landfill here in town and just outside of town when they were having their issues. But it's just those type of calls are service calls. Good intent calls. We have a lot of good intent calls. And you can see there it's about 12%. We get dispatched to a call and then they call and say it's a false alarm. That's a dispatch and canceled, the way we record that. So that is a good intent call. Their intent was good, but they didn't need us. Other would be there'd be a wrong location, or we get somewhere and there's no call there. Hey, we need you to go to Interstate 81. We go to 81 a lot. At the 18-mile marker for a crash, we get there and no one's there. That's a good intent call. Someone had good intent to send us, but there's nothing there for us to do.
Chief, if you tell them on your Christmas Day when you went to the good intent call.
So if we get a call for a fire alarm somebody from the fire department, even if they tell us to cancel, we continue on. On Christmas Day, as you know, it was very cold, and we had 14 sprinkler systems that froze and burst. That's how many sprinkler systems the fire department put out of service that day by turning the water off, because there was no way to contain the water. One business, which we call it a frequent customer, they typically have lots of fire alarms, and they called and said, hey, it's just a false alarm, you don't need to go. I drove to there anyway. They thought it was the normal fire alarm. It was a water flow alarm because the sprinkler head had frozen, busted, and the water was flowing out of the front of the business. They now have a Knox box, so I don't have to wait for them to get there. I can use our Knox box. We have a Knox box program. Businesses can purchase a Knox box, and we use a special key that only the fire department has the key to, and we can go in and get keys and access it. So it's important that when businesses and residents get alarms, they take them seriously. And they have become a little bit apathetic at that point, but they're not apathetic anymore. Another one would be like a special incident type. There's not very many on special incident type. I think it's like less than 0.5%, but a citizen complaint. Before I came here tonight, we had a citizen call and complain about an oil sheen in the creek down off Colonial Road down next to the muster ground. So we were down there, and I was walking up and down the creek and had a crew putting some booms out trying to contain a little bit of oil sheen and trying to find where it's coming from. Made phone calls to the state, to the Virginia Department of Emergency Management, their hazmat officer, and to DEQ so they can come out tomorrow and look and try to find where that's coming from. So it actually came from somewhere behind Luke's restaurant back that way, which was kind of strange, but because the creek there is only about as wide as this part of the diocese. It's very small. So how many calls do we run in town, and how many calls do we run out of town? The 10-year average is 54 outside the corporate limits and 46% inside the town. That's about what we run, and that's about the monthly average. This past month, it was way off. We ran 2/3 of our calls are outside corporate limits in July, and only 1/3 were inside, but that's an anomaly. That doesn't happen. It's about 55% to 45%. On the data that's on the screen, that block that's over on the left, there's about 1,000 calls that our system doesn't tell if it's county or town, because we didn't keep that data at that point on those calls from years ago. That's why you have that one little block. Is that good, Mr. Anderson?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Now I want to talk about response time. How quick are we? We have benchmarks that we can look at, and the National Fire Protection Association has a standard. The number is 1710, and it establishes a benchmark that if we have a fire, that we should be out of the station within 80 seconds, so 1 minute and 20 seconds. Our first fire engine should be on the scene within 4 minutes. 90% of the time, they must have a crew of 4. The second company must arrive within 6 minutes, 90% of the time, and they also must have a crew of 4. And it goes on, and it talks about there's a whole little book about a 1/2 inch thick. It talks about how we should respond to calls. As you can see from the chart, from 2018 down to 2023, we are getting better. We're getting faster, which is good. Dr. Lori Moore Merrill, who is the current U.S. Fire Administrator, stated if fire department response times and force assembly times are low, that means getting people in the truck, it is more likely sufficient resources have been deployed, which is associated with a more positive outcome from risk events. So what that means is, if we have a staff fire department and we're able to respond within these metrics that we have here, we're able to get to your emergency, our citizens' emergencies, our visitors' emergencies quicker, and we can lessen the effect of that emergency to you. When we assess our response times, we have to look at community risks, which can be it is a complex process. I have notes, in case you haven't figured out. I have to write notes down so I don't get lost, so I don't forget what I'm supposed to say. So I'll try not to read everything to you, but how do we figure out how do we get better? It's a three-part process. We look at how likely are we to have an emergency at your location. If you do have an emergency, what's the consequence? Is it going to cause a civilian or firefighter injury or loss of life? Is it going to cause property damage or loss? Are we going to lose critical infrastructure? Is it going to cause environmental damage? Is it going to cause businesses to close and we lose that revenue from that business? The impact of an incident also, what happens if we have two calls at the same time, which we do? We did just the other day. We were on one call and there we had people at the station. There was only two people, but they were able to take care of it. There are many days, I'm the youngest person that responds to the fire call. I'm not too young if you couldn't tell. Some days that's tough because as the fire chief, I may be the one that has to put on the air pack and go in and fight fire, and that's difficult, especially when I'm supposed to be one standing outside. They call me, I point a lot. So I stand outside and I say, you go here and you go do this. That's what I'm supposed to do. But sometimes that doesn't happen.
So I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
And I don't know if this is the appropriate place to answer the question. So it's wonderful that all the fire departments in the county are able to work together. But what happens if you go to a call in Glade Spring and you're there and all your manpower is there and something happens in the town?
We don't send everybody
Okay, right.
So on those calls, it's either an automatic aid call
Okay.
or it's a mutual aid call. Automatic aid, if there's a structure fire, a chimney fire, some type of fire, they send the first due fire department and the second due. So one fire department and a second fire department. If it's a mutual aid call, if they call and they special request us to come. If we go outside the corporate limits as a second due fire department, we send our tanker, which takes 3 people max. That's all it can fit in it. And we take a utility pickup truck, which can hold 4 people. So that's what we send unless they ask for something specifically. They may ask for our rehab trailer, they could ask for our ladder truck, but if they don't ask for something specifically, that's all they're going to get. I've been on the fire department since 1992. And I can tell you from all the fire chiefs that I've had, and being your fire chief now, we're going to take care of the town. This is our responsibility. It's also our responsibility to take care of the other 9,000 citizens that live in the county that's in our first due area. So we have to make sure that we have the resources here to take care of any emergency that may happen if we're being called somewhere else.
I figured you had a good plan, I just didn't know what it was.
We try to have a good plan, yes ma'am. So what does our response time look like? Here's a monthly comparison of the past, since May of '22, so this is when I took over as fire chief. The blue is our response time in the town, and our orange is our response time in the county. Obviously, responding to the county, our times are going to be longer because we have a longer travel distance. In May, our response time in minutes in the town limits was 7 minutes, 7.65 minutes, so a little over 7.5 minutes. It is now down to 6.5 minutes. In the county, it was 10.85, and now it's down to 10.47. Just over the last 2 months, we have decreased our response time in the town limits by about 9%. So each month we're getting better, and that's a testament to the people that work for the fire department. That's a testament to those folks that come and they work. They leave their full-time job and they come and work for us part-time, maybe on a shift, or if the alerts go off, they come out. It's not as easy to get people to leave their work anymore as it used to be. When I first started for the fire department, Chief McCormick, Bo McCormick was the chief. A lot of folks work for the town. They work for Public Works, they work for the sewer department, and if an alert went off, they left that job and they came to the downstairs to the fire station, because this is where the fire station was, right downstairs. They would come here and they would park their town truck or whatever they happened to be in, and they ran the fire call. When they got done, they came back and went back to their job. We had people that left their businesses. You know, Bob worked for Highlands Union Bank and some other jobs and stuff, and Bob was able to leave his job. Today, people are not going to let you leave anymore, because look at the workforce. If you go to a restaurant, it's hard to get somebody to be there to work. You go to a retail store, it's hard to find somebody to work. Walmart at exit 19 is getting ready to do another grand reopening on the 18th. They have taken out cashiers and put in more self-checkouts because one of the things is they just don't have people to hire. So we have the same problem. So that's why we always are recruiting and trying to find somebody. On your desk is a little sticker placed up there on your desk. And we'll talk about what it says here in just a second, but there's a little QR code on that sticker. If you scan it, it takes you to our application for the fire department. So, I mean, if you got some free time, I'll offer free training. Just let you know. So this is why it matters. We had an apartment fire on Stone Mill Road in town. It was right at shift change. We had a couple people working day shift, and we had some people coming into evening shift, so we were able to put a fire truck out the door. That 4 minutes or 5 minutes and 8 seconds, that's from the time we got the call to the time we rescued the lady in the house that was on fire. 5 minutes and 8 seconds. Had we not done that, the outcome would not have been so good. Mason Place was a kitchen fire. Got a fire alarm activation within 4 minutes and 10 seconds. We had to force open the door. We tore their door up. We're sorry about that, but their house didn't burn up. We were able to go in, found what was on the stove, took care of that. They had some cleanup and some repair work to do, and their house is still standing. We have had some house fires that are not so lucky because they're farther away. The house that we had out in Winterham, we responded to that house in Winterham. There's video from up here on top of the hill you can watch. We were at the station at a drill. We were able to put 18 people on the scene of the fire just from us, which is really unusual today. But we were able to go around and we saved the house. They're not tearing the house down, to the best of my knowledge. They are fixing the house. So that's good. I mean, if they tear a house down, it's kind of hard to collect taxes on the lot because it's not worth as much as the house. That's why it's important for us to have people. You know, when seconds count, we count seconds. It's imperative that all of our citizens and all of our visitors and all of our businesses, wherever they are, they have working smoke detectors, working carbon monoxide detectors. Because when things happen, and you'll be able to watch this short little video and you'll see why when he clicks play. There's no audio to it, so I can give you like a play-by-play, but this is 2 apartments that were built, purposely built with 2 different types of furnishings. Old furnishings, like from pre-60, to furnishings of today, which most of us have in our home. Think of this starting with just a cigarette being placed in the couch. They have sped up time just a little bit just to help, so you can see the clock on the bottom. You can see the flame on the right-hand side of each couch as it starts to come up. It looks like the one on the left is going to be a bigger fire. You can see the smoke being produced by the one on the right. Now your smoke detector just went off. Watch the smoke on the right-hand side. It's really important. You're at home, laying in your bed at 3 o'clock in the morning, and your smoke alarm goes off. What's the first thing you're going to do? Is sit up. Look what you just sat up into, the smoke. This is why our community risk reduction program is so important, to go out and teach kids and teach adults what to do when there is a fire at your house. Less than 5 minutes, the room is fully engulfed. They'll advance the video and they'll keep advancing it. And you'll see the one on the left, the old house from the 50s or 60s that's got the old furniture. Here we are 16 minutes into the fire. The fire has died down. Finally just made its way after almost 30 minutes. This is why our response time and having a staff fire engine is so important to our community. It's one of the few things that we actually do that makes a difference in someone's life. Our folks are highly trained and very professional. But we have to have people to be able to get out the door so we can get to the station. Now, I'm not here asking you for money, by the way. This is not the pitch I'm doing tonight. I just want to let you know, but if I don't tell you this,
We wouldn't know.
maybe it's one of those things that you just don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And if I could just 1 second, I've been in the public arena for 32 years. I don't think I'm that old, but I've been in the public safety world, and that's I've never seen that video, and I just learned a lot, and that was amazing. So that really, I push response time because it's important. I know it saves lives, but that really magnifies it. So thanks for showing that.
Yes, sir. So how do we make competent, professional, trained firefighters? This is a list of training that's been taken since January of this year by our members of the fire department. Firefighter 1's 168 hours. That's the baseline. That is where we get our bread and butter skills from. It's 168 hours. By the way, people that take that class for us, we don't pay them to take it. Don't have the money in the budget, but they take it. They've taken hazmat awareness operations, which is a piece of firefighter 1. So to be a firefighter, just to be able to go in and fight fire, is 200 hours of training. And a commitment to do what other people don't do. They're running into the fire where everybody else is leaving. That's a big deal. Fire instructor 1, fire officer 1, so we got people trained to teach our people, we got people that are being trained to supervise our people. One of the things that I did when I took over as chief, we looked at our fire inspection program. So when I became the full-time chief, they had the opportunity to hire an assistant chief. And I asked to take that assistant chief and change it into 2 full-time firefighters, which is way more beneficial. The 3 full-time folks, myself and the 2 firefighters that we hired, both went through the fire inspector program. So we spent 3 weeks in Whitfield. We drove to Whitfield and we took the class, and we all are certified fire inspector 1 and 2. I've taken 1 training class. I have another training class I have to go to Richmond to take, and I'll be the official fire official and certified to do that for the town. We then decided that we needed people to be able to investigate fires. We were able to host that training at a fire station. If you drove by, you saw these 2 big red trailers back behind the station. They were full of furniture. And we had the 6 cells, 3 in each one, and we burnt those rooms like you saw in the video, and then we had to go and investigate it. Well, there were 4 of us that took that class. And that class is 265 hours, 120 hours of classroom, and 145 hours of online training. That was rough, but we did it. And the various certified fire investigator courses, that's part of that 145 hours of online training that we did take. But you can read the host of other classes that we've taken. The one on the right-hand side, cancer awareness, firefighters are more than 2 times more likely to get cancer than any other occupation, period. Of our 35 firefighters that we currently have, it will not surprise me in the next 5 to 10 years if a half a dozen of them end up with some type of cancer. That is an occupational hazard of our job. Companies have designed the stuff that we wear, those big old coats that we wear with the stripes on it that looks reflective. They actually designed those things, and the liners actually off-gas and give off carcinogens. They have just discovered that. So this past year, I was able to take some of our aid to locality money, which is pass-through money from the Virginia Department of Fire Programs, and I bought all of our members a second set of gear that does not have that particular piece in it, that doesn't off-gas, trying to make them safer. It's a hard thing to do. We have, in our physicals that we pay for out of our budget, we have discovered cancer. We have discovered heart disease and diabetes and all these things, but all these folks have been able to come up with a plan with their doctor to fix those things, or at least as best as they could. Our ISO rating. Now we're getting to exciting stuff. So our ISO rating, that we just went through a rating, and we received a 5. We were a 5 at our last rating. The rating before that, we were a 4. So that was about 8 years ago. There's 673 total fire departments in the Commonwealth of Virginia. 196 of them have a Class 5, and only 158 fire departments have a better rating than we do. After we received this rating, I worked with Mr. Cochran and Ms. Rice, and be quite honest, this is the document that we're graded to. I call it a grade from the Insurance Service Office. They are a third-party for-profit company that comes out once every 4 years to evaluate your fire department and then sells that information to insurance companies. So your homeowner's insurance and the fire side is based on whatever our score is typically. Insurance companies can use it, they can modify it however they choose to use it. When we got our report back, our score was pretty low. And I was pretty disappointed. So I have communicated with ISO at least a half a dozen times by email. And this Friday I have a conference call. They've already given us more points that they should have, that they didn't, that we should have got. So I'm hoping that we may end up as a ISO class 4. And what does that mean to you as a homeowner, as a business owner? The higher the number, typically the lower your fire insurance rates. So if we go from a 5 to a 4, you could save, as a business owner, commercial insurance, 2 to 9%, depending on who your carrier is. So everything we do inside the fire station, we try to do to make us better so we can increase this score. But just communicating with ISO wasn't enough for me. I was like, there's got to be a better way. So I talked to Mr. Cocker and Ms. Rice. We had some money left over in the budget last year, and we actually hired a consultant to come in, a third-party, unbiased person to come in and evaluate our fire department as a whole. And that's what, I just got the final report. That's what this report is, and I'll be happy to share that with you. Whenever you want that, I'll give it to you. I'll talk to Mr. Cocker and get that to you. In the report, it talks about everything that our score was with ISO, and then the consultant. And the consultant's background, he was the fire chief for Germantown, Tennessee, just outside of Memphis for about 25 years. He retired and went to work for University of Tennessee, go Vols. And he, and he worked for University of Tennessee, and this is what his job was for UT, was to go out and evaluate fire departments for UT. There was no charge to them for that service, but he evaluated everything they did, from how they did their reporting, how they responded to calls, and everything that's included. So there are 9 things that he has recommended that we do to be better. Some of those are little to no cost. In our community risk reduction program, how do we reach the masses of our town? Well, the easiest way is when we send our tax bill out twice a year. If we put a little fire safety message at the bottom of it, which really costs us nothing, we just reached 100% of the people that pay taxes. And then instead of me just saying we only reached 3% of our population, because we just talk to kids mostly, now I can say we've reached 100%. So small things like that that cost little to no money will help improve our score, which shows that we are actually a better fire department on paper to somebody. I know how good we are. I know how good our fire department is. And there will be other fire chiefs that watch this video, and if you're watching this video, make sure you subscribe and like the video. It helps. But there'll be other fire chiefs that tell you they have the best fire department. I can promise you right now, we have the best fire department. We do. And I am biased. I wouldn't have been here for as long as I have been. These guys behind me wouldn't be here for as long as they've been here. I ate lunch the other day in Damascus, at Damascus Diner, and there were 6 of us that ate lunch. And the combined experience out of 6 people was 319 years. And I was the kid. One guy had 70 years. That's Mr. Fletcher, Jim Fletcher from Damascus, if you know Jim.
I think he used to be the guidance counselor at high school when I was there.
He was the attendance principal when I was there. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, you on speed dial?
No, I was
Got one
good.
green left.
That's one of the good things about Mr. Fletcher is if you're in high school and you're a firefighter and your fire department had a call, Mr. Fletcher, we got a fire call. Bye. He'd let you leave. You're excused. Because he knew the importance, even back then. That's in the 70s and 80s. So, but any questions about the ISO rating? This is just pictures of the equipment we have, just so we have a lot of equipment. And Mike's folks at the town shop, they are top notch and they take really good care of us. And we call them, and sometimes it's a fight between me and Chief Holbrook to see who gets you get a police car or a fire truck in there, but they're phenomenal and they keep our stuff running.
That is a true statement.
But this is my truck, the assistant chief's pickup truck, our ladder truck. The engine at the bottom in the middle, that's the fire engine. If you have a house fire, that truck comes. That's a 1999 fire truck. The ladder truck is a 2006. The truck on the bottom right is the newest engine. It's 2016. We bought that in 2016. The final lease payment, I believe, is this year. And it's a purchase price when we bought that in 2016 of over $800,000.
When is a fire truck outdated or needs to be updated? Is that a?
Well, we don't have our oldest fire truck.
It's a loaded question.
Yeah, it is a loaded question. So this fire truck on the upper left is our oldest truck.
Okay.
That's a 1995. We bought that truck after we moved to the fire station over on Park Street because it wouldn't fit here, obviously, because the doors weren't big enough. We take really good care of our stuff. All of our trucks are very well maintained. Every year we send them out. We have them third-party pump tested. So if somebody tells us our pump is good. Our ladders are third-party tested. So they take all of our ladders off our trucks, including the aerial, and they test it. They're for a 1995 truck, an old truck. It's got a lot of miles, got a lot of hours on it. It's a really good truck. The National Fire Protection Association, they suggest 15 years frontline service and then an additional 5 to 10 years in reserve, and then they're gone. You replace them. But these are not small ticket items. The ladder truck is insured for replacement cost for $1.7 million. The engine in the middle is insured for a replacement cost of $1 million. The truck to the right of it, 205, is insured for replacement cost of $1.2 million. That 95 truck, now I can go buy a 1995 truck today for about 30 grand or less, but it's insured for $1 million because you have to replace it. 30,000 would never, you won't replace the hose on the truck for 30,000.
Pay for shipping, huh?
Yeah, barely want to pay for shipping. So it's insured for $1 million because it's replacement cost. The truck to its right is our tanker. That's the one we take to the county. It has a larger water tank, 1,250 gallons, not very big, but that's what we take in the county. It's insured for, I believe it's $600,000 this year. The bottom row is our brush truck. It's just a Ford pickup truck. It's a F-350 with a diesel engine, which is the almost a Duramax, but that's not a Ford. Anyway, it's highly sought after. I only got 20,000 miles on it, but it's hard miles, being a 2002. We run them pretty hard up in the fields and put grass fires out and brush fires. But having a replacement plan is one of the recommendations that's in the consultant's report. But they're so expensive. Every year, the price of fire trucks go up anywhere from 10 to 18%. And right now, because everybody is using their ARPA money, everybody used the COVID money to go buy fire trucks. We've got this ladder truck, this is right here. We got that truck in 11 months. If I ordered that truck today, 36 is the minimum number of months, 3 years before we can get that truck. Every company took in so many orders. They took in a year's worth of orders in 2 months. And then the supply chain issues, buying red lights, getting pumps, these trucks start life out as a pallet of metal. The fact you can go to YouTube and you can search Pierce Manufacturing, that's who builds our trucks. And it shows you from the pallet of metal to a finished truck and how they build it, like how it's made. It's pretty cool. But they're just expensive. Yeah. And that's just a truck. That doesn't count what's on the truck. Yeah. Our air packs that we have, our self-contained breathing apparatus, the bottles look like scuba bottles that we wear. Those are about $3,000 to $5,000 a piece, depending on if you get any bells or whistles with them. The radios that we use are $3,000. Our turnout gear is $3,000. I mean, our complete package for a firefighter is very expensive, outside of the human resource cost. But across brush truck and then our battalion, so the truck in the middle is a little Colorado that the other officers, not the assistant chief, not the fire chief, but they take that on a rotating basis to give us a break. I have a take-home truck and the assistant chief has a take-home truck. And then the utility truck, the bottom right, that's the other truck we take into the county, that pickup truck. But it also tows our trailers. We have a rehab trailer, which works as a command trailer. If you've been to when you've been to Plum Alley Day and you walk by Pecan Street, you see us and the PD and the life-saving crew sit up there, that trailer, that's the trailer we have over there. It's got radios and computers and things in it, so we can sit up in there. A training van, that's just what I call it. For a while, when I was riding as assistant chief, I was called a mom van. But we use that to go to training. We have our mule, that's the UTV. That's what we go to the Creeper Trail with, to go pick up people. That vehicle was acquired at little to no cost to local government because there are lots of folks that donated money for that. We have a unit in the back that allows us, excuse me, to carry a patient, and we work with the life-saving crew. They put an attendant on there, and we drive them out. We help pick the people up and take them back to the ambulance. And then the two on the bottom, the one on the left is a 1924 Brockway La France, the town bought new in 1924. Next year in October, we will be celebrating its 100th anniversary. So its 100th birthday next year during Fire Prevention Week. The truck to the right is a 1928 American La France, the town bought new. We've had the 28 since new. The 24 went from us, went to Damascus, went to the Lynchburg Paper Company, and then we got it back. Public Works, before, that truck takes Santa Claus. It hauls Santa Claus every Christmas. So this year, before the Christmas parade, Mike and his team at Public Works had to put new tires on that truck. Probably the most expensive tires I've ever seen to be the size of
about that one.
It's phenomenal what that little truck will cost.
If you factor it by the year, though, it's not that much.
No, it's not bad. No, it's not bad at all. But, it still runs. The truck beside it, the 1928, the one that we rode with council in the Christmas parade, it still pumps. It was running out of this building, or maybe it was across town over at the Army Navy shop, but it ran fire calls until 1963.
Wow.
We do get our money out of our trucks. But here's the thing about replacing fire apparatus. A 1995 truck works great, but today it's underpowered, it has less safety features on it, and it is not as efficient and as effective as a new truck is. And plus, with its age, it starts to nickel and dime you. And our nickels and dimes aren't nickels and dimes. We're talking, 5 to 10 grand. It's bigger money. So just something to think about, that in the future, as long as you allow me to be fire chief, I'll come back and through Mike and Mr. Cocker, and I'll ask about new fire trucks. And I know eventually we'll get new fire trucks, but I know that is everybody wants something that comes to you, and I know that. That's why we're going to continue to take good care of our trucks, because they're your trucks, they're the citizens' trucks. And for people that want to ride fire trucks, we do give rides on fire trucks. They belong to the citizens. They come by, if they have a child that's in a car seat, as long as we have a policy, as long as they put their car seat in, we'll give you a ride.
I wish I'd known that.
I've been on the
years ago.
receiving end of that. That's true. And they will.
I
They'll
wish
give
I'd
you a
known that
ride.
years
You
ago.
got car seats, everyone's a ride.
And just to let you know, I'm almost done. I'm going to have like 2 more slides and I'll be done. I know it's been a lot of information. I really appreciate your patience and indulgence. One of the most important things that we do at the fire station is community risk reduction. A community risk reduction program helps our department take what we already know and probably already doing and intentionally focus knowledge and activities to lower the all hazard risk within our area of operation. We go to our schools, we go to our local schools, and students come to us each year. We have one school class that no longer comes to us because one of our members, about 15 years ago, that 1995 truck, has a newer door on the outside of it now because they had the door open and they drove out of the station and they took the door off. It happens. But you know what? The truck's still in service, still works great. But we have to go to them now. They don't come to us anymore. We provide an educational experience to these children to explain the importance of fire safety, smoke alarms, escape plans, and so much more. We hope these children take that information home and share it with their caregivers. We attend several events each year: Plum Alley Day, National Night Out. We just attended that with the police department. The Fiddlers Convention and Halloween, just to mention a few. We have partnered with the American Red Cross to install free smoke alarms. And just to date this year, we've installed over 50. We had a program a couple weekends ago, and we spent time at Kings Mountain, Nicholas Street, hitting all those houses over there and we went door to door, putting a little door card out, and then we went back on Saturday, again, door to door. Would you like a free smoke detector?
Thank you for that. Several people that's my neighborhood, several people, I think there were tons of people that came to me and thanked me for that. It wasn't me, that was the fire department. Thank you all for that.
Thank you. But we had a great time. I mean, we're talking to people about different things and just being out in the community, and that's what we're a part of the community. We all live in the community, so we have to make sure we're talking to our neighbors. I mentioned earlier about inspections and when we adopted the statewide fire prevention code. I told you how many new inspectors we have. We're working to retool that whole program. And how are we going to fund that program? And we have a large adopted policy on how it's funded and paid for. We're looking to streamline that and make it better. We want to make sure that we hit all of our businesses within 3 to 4 years. Hit them once each time, except for things that are required by code, because it's a lot of businesses, and we're like 900 businesses we have to go to, and with only 4 people, it would be hard to do. But we're looking at that. But this is the reason fire inspections are important. Probably all of us in this room, and a lot of folks that are watching online, go to their doctor once a year just to get a checkup. Check my blood pressure, check my blood sugar, check my feet, make sure I don't have neuropathy, check my hearing, check my vision. It's just a checkup. That's what a fire inspection is. Because you want that doctor to find something so they can help you correct it. And that's what we're going to do with fire inspections. In the bottom right-hand corner is a logo you probably have not seen yet. And that's the logo for our fire marshal's office that we have created inside the fire department. Let me tell you how much that cost the town. I had to buy 7 t-shirts at about $9 a piece. That's how much it cost the town to create this. So all of our fire inspectors and all of our fire investigators are now part of our fire marshal's office. And it gives them a sense of ownership and belonging. And so now they don't mind if I say, hey, can you go check this complaint? I checked a complaint today of one of our local establishments. Somebody called, they had a complaint, went and checked it out, found the issue, and they have it already being resolved. So that's the things that we do every day. We hope that through our community risk reduction that we do, by the way, I mentioned the ISO score earlier. I filled out a sheet. It was actually 4 pages long that I gave to ISO about community risk reduction, and they gave us 0 credit for it. That's one of the things they turned around and they gave us 3.8 points credit for that community risk reduction after I showed them that they were wrong. And so this Friday, I hope to find more points. I mean, I just want a fair evaluation from them. We'll take whatever score we're supposed to get, as long as the people that's doing their job does it correctly. But this is what our community risk reduction program is all about. We want to make our community safer. So I'm going to leave you with this. The fire department strives to provide a highly efficient and effective emergency service to our community. However, the fire department cannot do this alone. We never have home field advantage. My plea is help us help you. Fire is everyone's fight. We need citizens, visitors, and businesses to be fire safe. Pay attention to the leading causes of fire: cooking, heating, smoking, electrical, and open flames. Fires are burning hotter and faster than ever before. The science clearly shows this, and we have seen it firsthand here tonight in that video that I showed you earlier. Even though we are responding to fires and other emergencies faster, sometimes we still arrive too late. It is imperative that everyone have working smoke and carbon monoxide alarms in their home. Test them once a month, not once every 6 months, every month. Smoke alarms now come with a 10-year battery. So if we waited for 10 years, you're just going to replace it. But test them every month. It's that important. The life you save could be yours or your family's. Make sure you have an escape plan for your home and your business. We tell kids it's about Edith, escape drills in the home. Do not delay in calling 911 for an emergency. We just went to a commercial building fire, not in our fire district, but as an additional company to go help. And outside they had 10 fire extinguishers. that they tried to put the fire out with before they made notification. Thankfully, the building is still standing, they're still operating, so they're able to pay their taxes, and people are still working, have a job. Through our fire code inspections, we will and have identified potential risks and noncompliance in our local properties, and we are teaching our community how fire and our building codes protect them. With the town council's continued leadership and guidance, and working collectively with the town's administration, other towns' department heads, and other local and state agencies, we can continue to improve and ensure the town of Abingdon is a fire-safe community. Any other questions? Well, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you, that was great.
Next time won't be so long.
That was good stuff. I learned a lot.
Thank you.
Do we have any other communications from the town manager?
Just a couple real brief pieces. One was, sorry, my eyes are not as good as his. I can't read that much. Yeah, so on Saturday, July 29th, I was out of town, but I got a nice email. We had a heck of a storm and knocked some trees down. And I got a nice email on a Saturday about some of our town staff that, before they even knew what was happening, our town staff was there coming from their, from off duty, or not off duty, but they weren't cops or anything, but they came and they actually, fixed some down trees and all. And it was just nice for our folks to do that, but this lady, spent time to send me an email saying, hey, thanks. I used to live, they lived here, moved to Colorado, got smart and moved back. And then, they had this tree come down, and lo and behold, our guys went out and fixed it on a Saturday and took care of it for them. And we just have a really great staff, and these folks in particular, Public Works, but they've come out before and handled things for people, and it's just so appreciative that they do that kind of stuff. And I did want to thank the fire chief for that presentation. I know it was thorough, but it really was a lot of information there that really needed to be told, because I don't think people understand how important it is to have a good fire safety program, because literally it is about lives and keeping people safe. And then the monthly report should be at your desk, and then it'll be posted online probably by the time we're done this meeting, so it'll be posted there. And one thing I did want to point out was that Public Works went and created a part of the webpage, and so that'll be linked off of Public Works. So anytime that anybody's in town and is interested in where we're at on certain projects, that'll be linked right off of Public Works, so they can look that up given time. It's for lengthy edition, so it's now its own standalone web page, so it is there. And with that, it's a beautiful place. I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Mike, what's the status of our banner pole that we will?
Had a meeting on that at 8 o'clock this morning with our engineer. So the previous design ran into a couple different issues about getting the engineering drawings stamped and signed off on. We have been able to identify a company that actually makes these, so you can it's not as easy as just ordering it off a shelf, but they have a set design that's pre-engineered. So we met with our engineer this morning. They have to do I think it's a soil compaction survey or something to figure out how much of a base underneath of it has to go in. And once that's done, we should get those things, I'm hoping, couple months-ish. It all depends on procurement time. So the pole systems, the older systems that we had, they had designed like a pulley system. It didn't quite work so well. The newer system, the way it looks, it comes with the system that's already, it works. So this is what they do. It's not a custom thing. It's just what they provide for other communities as well. So literally, as soon as we get that stuff signed off on, we should get things ordered. Now, if they're in stock, it'd be quicker. If they're not in stock, it won't be quicker. We did have to get an access easement, and that's all drawn up. We're just waiting on the final. Once we know when the poles will be in, then we can get the access easement signed off on from the property owner across the street from, is it Aaron's or? What's that? Okay, yeah, the property owner there. So it is a slow process, but literally it was 8 o'clock this morning. I was at Public Works talking about this with our engineer and our staff. So.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks.
Okay. Do we have any council member reports?
I'll have more reports the next meeting. As the month goes into, school will be starting on Wednesday for everyone, to let everyone know to be prepared for the school buses to be running in the town of Abingdon. Please watch for the stop signs for kids getting on and off the bus. Busiest times of the day, we probably will, I don't know what the construction is looking like over by, on, what is it, Cummings? Just be prepared, everyone try to get an early start on Wednesday morning to dictate what the traffic is gonna be like for the next upcoming week or so.
I don't have anything to add except for a reminder that we did the Purple Heart dedication today, and we also dedicated the playground at the Meadows Complex last Friday, and we are calling it an inclusive playground, and I've had some questions about that. By inclusive, it means that it has equipment that is able to be used by children of all different abilities. So there are, for example, swings that a child in a wheelchair could use, and there are slides that are made for children who may have different abilities so that it's fun for them as well. So by all inclusive, we mean it's for children of all different physical capabilities. So I know it looks great, it's really nice. That plus the splash pad, plus the upcoming pump track and the story walk. I mean, it's just become a really fabulous place. So something for everybody. Anything? Any reports? All right. So the only other thing we have then are appointments to boards and committees. And I do believe that they are all reappointments of people who are eligible to serve an additional term. If we want to go into closed session to discuss this, we can, or we can make a motion to reappoint each of these people in one large motion, if that is what you guys desire.
Kim, did we have anybody out of these people that did not want to serve? Or
No one had reported anything to me, sir.
Has any of the council members had anybody reach out that didn't particularly want to be reappointed? Well, I say we reappoint them all at one time.
Okay. All right, then I will entertain a motion to reappoint Sylvia Robbins to the Small Business Incubator, eligible to serve an additional term, along with Michael Spiegler, Pamela Stone, and Kent Peterson. Also for the reappointment of Robert Trevorrow to the Economic Development Authority, and the reappointment of Jack Barrow to the Tourism Advisory Committee.
So moved.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Is there any discussion? So the motion was made by Mr. Austin. It was seconded by Vice Mayor Anderson. Is there any discussion? If there's no discussion, Kim, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Austin.
Aye.
Mr. Webb.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Anderson.
Aye.
And Mayor Pillion.
Aye.
That was efficient, thank you.
So I guess that is all we have, and I will adjourn the meeting. Thank you so much.
Insert to whom?